Welcome to Navarrero's online video. Today we are back in the original testing world once more. It's been a while and we are not even here to take a look at the engines. We are actually here today to test out the different cars in this game. So for each of the different cargo items, I bought all the different cars that can hold it in order to figure out which one is the best at the transportation job here. For that, my main and only metric was the ratio between the weight of the empty car compared to how much cargo it can hold. The thought process behind that is pretty simple. Imagine there being two different trains, both of them having the same engine, both of them having the same capacity. Let's say that's 60 logs, for example. One of them might be using 12 Greg sugarcane logging cars. The other one might be using 10 of the old logging cars. And yeah, that would mean they both have the same capacity, but overall, in terms of weight to capacity ratio, the Greg sugarcane cars are a bit more efficient, and that means that the train using that would be lighter. So it could go up a steeper grade, maybe it could go a bit quicker across the plains, that kind of stuff. So that's pretty much the most objective way that I thought I could use in order to try and rate all of these. However, when it comes to really assembling the train, there are a few more other factors that I quickly want to go through, because at the end of the day, the stuff that I'm showing off as the most efficient one isn't really necessarily always what I would recommend you buy. So, first up, when it comes to Greg sugarcane cars, they are notorious for derailing, especially when pushing through a few of those, they just jump off the track. So they are a bit iffy in that regard. Also, when it comes to logs, beams, raw iron, and steel pipes, they usually require a full-length car due to their length. You are still going to get the same amount of money for transporting them on a shorter car, but they are going to get shrunk down once they land on that car and expand later down the line once you offload that again. That's not only awful to look at, it's also potentially quite buggy, and when you're unloading multiple cars, they tend to have the items just interfere with each other, and that could potentially cause some issues. So just so that you are aware of that. Another thing is that, especially for the lower capacity cars, you are going to do a lot more maneuvering in order to line them up and get them loaded. And the shorter cars are not that easy to line up to the cranes to begin with. But yeah, that's pretty much all of the side notes, and I'll be also talking about my most favorite car for each of the different goods. But let's get going, and yeah, the cars that are further up front are the ones that are technically more efficient in this single one metric over here. So, getting into the logs. First up, most efficient one, Greg sugarcane car with a capacity of 5. Then we have the skeleton car also holding 5 logs over here. And then the logging car with a capacity of 6. Again, for how much it can hold, this one is clearly winning out. And also just in terms of how cheap they are, the old one is kind of losing out here still. Especially due to those others shrinking down the logs in order to make them fit. I still prefer this one. Cordwood is the second good, as it is the other one from the logging camp. Yeah, only 2 options here. The old regular sized car right here, and then the Greg sugarcane variant of a bulkhead car. And I mean, I like the look of this, but this is really no competition. 8 items, 2 items, this one is clearly winning out. This one is, of course, quite a bit lighter, but it cannot make up for how little it can carry. Bit of a shame, but we are going to see this again in a moment. Now let's go over to the beams, and this is really the same story for everything that goes on a stake car. The Greg Sugarcane version is just more efficient, especially in case of the beams, because that's the same capacity as on the full-size car, again just being shrunk down. Overall, I would still go with the Greg Sugarcane car, with a regular car over the Greg Sugarcane. I don't really like this too much. And yeah, for the next one, similar story, only that there are actually half the amount of lumber on this car than on the other one, and still, if you buy two of them, you're gonna be a bit more efficient than for the full-length car. Maybe price-wise that wouldn't be the case, but yeah, just in terms of weight, this one is clearly better. Still, I'll be taking the full-length car over these ones any day, apart from one exception that we are going to take a look at in a moment. Now to the iron ore. This has a few more things going for it, and it's also having some weird thing regarding the slightly newer hopper. So starting out, the winner here without a doubt is the high wall gondola. 6 unit of iron ore. Next one, only half of that, the middle high gondola. Then we have the regular old hopper with a grand amount of 10. Only 2 for the low wall gondola, and the drop down hopper has a weirdly low capacity of 8 here. We are going to talk about why this is weird once we get to the coal, because those are going to be the same items, or the same cars over here, and it's gonna be a bit of a weird exception for this one. But yeah, in terms of efficiency, of course, this one is running away, and even the car that can only hold half as much is still more efficient than this one. I think once you get down to it, you can have 5 of these for the same weight as this one being empty, and at that point you're looking at 15 units of iron transported on these compared to 10 on this, and therefore, yeah, it's not even that close. Next up, the raw iron. Again, similar to the beams, same capacity for both of these, and therefore, of course, the Greg Sugarcane stake car reigns supreme by quite the margin. And this one, the rails, is my exception here due to there being only 4 rails on this one, while you can transport up to 10 on a regular stake car. And this makes it quite interesting for especially the coal mine. If you want to transport stuff at ratio, this allows you to do things with quite a different ratio compared to only using these ones. And that's why I kind of like this one. Still, with my operation so far, I had this thing derail so often it's not even funny, and it's so random and easy to provoke. Cannot really recommend it anyways. But this is something that if this was working more properly, I would give this more of a shot than for all of the other goods. Next one is the coal. And now we get to the weird thing. Except for this hopper over here, all of the items can hold the same amount of coal as they can with iron ore. 6 for the high wall gondola, 3 for the mid wall, 2 for the low wall, and 10 for the old hopper. But for the newer one, this is a capacity of 10, while for iron ore, there's only 8. And you can see this one being able to hold as much as the other hopper. It kind of puts it on equal footing. I think the only difference between those is that this one is actually a bit cheaper. But yeah, same capacity, same overall weight, so they are pretty much equal, and I kind of like this being an option, at least for this one. And again, due to it being more tedious to fill these up and them also derailing, I would usually take one of those over the rest any day. Now we get towards the pipes. 7 on the small car, 9 on the large one, And yeah, this one of course being much more efficient. I think you can get about 2 of these for 1 of these, and yeah, 7 to 9, that's not exactly half of that. So it works out pretty well for this one. Still would prefer this one due to the whole shrinkage thing and the other reasons. Now we get to the tools, and this is kinda funny because this is the only point where the mid-size gondola or the mid-high wall thing, or too high wall, whatever, is winning out over the other variants. It's with every other good, it's either the high wall gondola or the low wall gondola, but with this one, this wins out by a tiny amount. And tools are currently not even all that critical, although that might change with the next update. It seems that a lot of industries there actually need tools, so this might be something to keep in mind for later. And yeah, unlike the low wall gondola, this one can actually stack up the boxes 2 levels, same as with the high wall gondola, although the high wall would at least give a bit of protection against these ones just sliding off here. While with the mid wall gondola, that's really only keeping the bottom level in check. And then we have the boxcar, which also has the same capacity as these ones, but it's just a bit heavier and therefore not quite as efficient. Then we get to the regular old boxcar, 32. So that's almost 3 times as much as this one, but it's also just so much more heavy. And even slightly heavier than that is the cattle car, which can of course also be used for some of the other transportation stuff. I think this might be the only other good besides cattle that can go in here, but well, it's something, it looks nice, and same capacity as for this one, but with a bit extra weight. Doesn't really make too much of a difference, but looking close at it, there is one, and therefore this is a bit further back. And yeah, at the very end we have the stake car without anything, and also without any protection from having these slide off. And last but, I mean, yeah, it is pretty much least, the low wall gondola. Although, honestly, if I was to have to choose between one of those, I would likely take this one. The difference is not that great, but this at least looks a bit more secure than this one right here. But overall, I would say, depending on what exactly you want to do, I would definitely go for either one of these that fit in terms of how many items you want to transport. Maybe not the ones at the very end, but I've had quite a bit of success using the boxcar over here, even before knowing that this one would be able to do the same thing in terms of capacity, but being slightly more efficient. I think overall, if I was to go for 12 items per car, I would take this one, and that again can be very important when trying to deliver the items at ratio. So next up, crude oil. And this is one where I kinda started regretting picking that metric, because the most efficient car is this one, the small one, with a capacity of 2. Then you have the old one, capacity of 12. The coffin car only 8 units and also being heavier than this one. So that's definitely not gonna be usable too much. I really dislike this. I love the coffin car and I wish it was the same capacity as this one. I would pick this immediately. And this one honestly isn't even worth discussing in a serious manner, because 2 units gonna mean you're gonna do a lot of back and forth at the oil field. I wouldn't recommend this to anybody. My money is still absolutely on the old tanker car for its higher capacity. It's making things a lot more easy, and yeah, even the coffin car can't really get up to that. It's a bit cheaper, but I think this one is worth the extra money. Also, I put another little boxcar over here, and this is not just for shits and giggles. This is not a mistake. This one is actually loaded with crude oil. I think that maybe by accident, but it's possible. I put this to an oil field and I could load this up. Trying to load them using Railroad Studio, I figured out a few kind of weird things, and this is one that definitely stuck to me. And yeah, it's definitely a sticky situation over here. Can't even see it from down below, but it's a situation. Anyways, moving on to the oil barrels, the last item in the original supply chain. And yeah, the gondola cars win out again, each of them having a capacity of 15. Of course, the lower walls being a bit lighter than the high walls, and therefore this one is winning out. You can get a bit more than, I think it's about 3.4 cars for the same weight as the bulkhead car over here, and the 3 cars having almost the same capacity as one of those. I think that's pretty easy to see that this would be far more efficient. But I would still likely just go for this one here and yeah, fill it up with 46 cars in total. If I didn't mention it yet, these are all loaded with 15 barrels. And I think the same is true for the one in the back here. Yeah, the boxcar can also hold these and the same amount, but it's so much more heavy than just the open top gondolas. But it doesn't really work out too well. I mean, if you're going for a certain type of look, although you wouldn't be seeing too much of it with the door closed, can still use it, but for me, this one would be the one to go for. Okay, next up, one of the newer goods, the water. Yeah, the smaller car wins out with 6 units, being half of what you can get on the larger one, and they are funnily enough having the opposite type of issue. This one always looks empty. If I shine my light in here, you can clearly see that there's no water in here, not a single drop, while this one is always looking like as if it was at least half full, or in this case might even be fully loaded, but it never gets empty. Next up, we have the seats from a freight depot. The old boxcar can hold up to 14, making it quite efficient, but also taking a while to load. And then we have the sugarcane car. 6 of those very loosely just put onto the car right here. And the same capacity but higher weight, of course, for the small boxcar. Oh no, I was mistaken. These ones take so much space on the open car that this one having the same surface and being slightly closed in more due to the walls, you can only get 3 of those in here, which makes this just absolutely abysmal. I would definitely recommend going for the full-size car. Everything else here doesn't make too much sense, and especially for the next good, there is only this one as an option. Once we get to the grain, so the stuff that you get out of the wheat farm, you can only use the regular size boxcar, and that gives you a capacity of 12, being fairly highly loaded. And yeah, if this was more realistic, if the actual freight had physics, you would want to keep the door closed, because otherwise you might be ending up with maybe 10 or 9 units left at the end after going through a few corners here. Anyways, next up we have the bales. Officially straw bales, but I like to imagine them being hay bales instead, since that would make a bit more sense. For the bulkhead cars, you can pick up 15. and it's only gonna be 4 for the smaller one. So that's again a considerable downside over here. Quite a bit lower, but I don't think it's quite as bad as on the other one. This is just slightly more than diff or a factor of 3, while the other one was a factor of 4, and yeah, it still doesn't bode too well for this one, sadly. Still one of my more favorite cars in terms of look, but can't really help it. This one far more efficient. Now to the cows or cattle. Yeah, not much in terms of options. 6 cows fit into one of those yeah, box cars with a bit more of an open side, allowing them to breathe a bit more. But yeah, that's really the only option right here. And now on to the meat. Yeah, you can put up to 36 into one of those ventilated cars that really do very little apart from having a few windows over here. I'm a bit curious why you cannot put anything else that you could put into a regular boxcar apart from the grain into this one, and why the beef cannot go into this car as well. Would be maybe a bit weird. First up bringing the cows to the slaughterhouse and then transporting their remains back to the freight depot in the same car, but I don't see why not. Anyways, so much about all of these. Now last and certainly least again, the car that can still transport nothing, the passenger car. I mean, I wanted to mention this and hopefully soon enough we'll get a use for it, but right now as it stands, yeah, it can stand somewhere in the yard, waiting, hopefully to at some point be useful, but right now, not really too much going on with it. And yeah, that brings this video to an end. Yeah, that's all the different goods, and yeah, this was quite something, especially seeing how stuff like the tools have so many options available. There are only a few goods that still only have one car for them, but in terms of things being balanced, while some of the things definitely have different options, even especially if we imagine the bugginess of the Greg Sugarcane cars to be removed and everything being fixed, there are still a few things where one way or another there is a clear winner. So I don't know. The old longer cars still win out in some cases by being easier to load up, but in terms of capacity to weight ratio and all of that, it's very often very one-sided on the Greg Sugarcane cars. But yeah, that's gonna be it from my end. Thanks for watching, and let me know what you think of all of this, if you would have taken something else into consideration. Again, I just wanted to make the overall rating as objective as I can, but there are definitely a few caveats with the results as we have them right here. So yeah, anyways, that's gonna be it from my end. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Hope you enjoyed. Bye bye.